Welcome to another Thursday night edition of Real Monsters. I'm your host, S.K. Barrett, and joining me is the lovely and talented Wes Hobrick.
Your Thursday night treat, I guess, if you are of the dark like we are.
Yeah,
We're all a little monstrous, I suppose, but who
yeah,
knows?
little monsters are not as bad as big monsters.
I'm like a zombie of Vanna White.
I was, a friend of mine asked, what are we talking about tonight? And I said Zodiac, and they were like, don't you ever talk about something, uplifting? And I said,
Uplifting.
no.
Now we're gonna drag you down to the depths of hell. That's more where we're at.
Yeah.
I don't know how exactly you do uplifting. Although I suppose our show next week might be the closest we would get to it, considering the subject matter.
And that subject matter is
I believe we have the scheduled weird defenses for murder.
yeah, that should be hilarious. That's right.
Yeah.
Weird defenses next week.
Yep.
Woohoo! All
So
right.
join us and a guest for that too.
So here's a so this is for those of you tuning in. We kind of got on a kick of summertime killers, and even though these serial killers have not all, they don't just kill in the summer. You kind of associate them with summertime, like Son of Sam,
Yeah.
and Manson, and now Zodiac. It's kind of, you kind of think of them as a summertime thing.
Yes, although this is one thing that we'll definitely be touching on as we talk about this. There's a lot of theories that float around, especially when they don't catch them.
Yeah, those things, the unsolved aspect of certain crimes can really make people obsess. Yeah.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
So so tell me something. What songs remind you of summertime?
Yeah, one that I guess kind of does, but I associate it with Zodiac in particular
Yeah.
because of the movie is Hurdy Gurdy Man by
I w-
Donovan.
I was gonna say Hurdy Gurdy Man is a great one. Yeah, and they did use it in the movie,
Well, and it was the intro and the outro basically in David Fincher's 2007 movie,
which
and it's
was excellent.
perfect. Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's perfect because Zodiac was, he viewed himself, I think you could argue, as somebody who's elite, somebody who's better than your average human. And that's what the lyrics are in Hurdy Gurdy Man. Of course, it's not at all what Donovan meant by it, but, that's what the Hurdy Gurdy Man is. Supposed to be bringing you to a higher plane of existence, as it were, if you look at the lyrics. Uh,
One of the songs that reminds me of summer is "Spill the Wine."
ooh, War. That's a
Yeah,
good one. Eric Burden and War.
yeah.
In fact, I put that on our playlist last week with Manson.
Oh, cool.
Yep, on the 1969 playlist.
All right, so let's see. Do we got some history? Do This week in
Yeah,
crime history.
got a couple notes with that. August 8th, 1963, 2 million pounds stolen by the 15 strong gang in the Great Train Robbery in London. On the
Wow,
run for 30 years.
wow. So now the novel that Crichton wrote was based on this actual crime?
I
I,
believe so. I'm not sure, but I believe so.
what's interesting about that is that he wrote that novel while he was a med student.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah.
Dang,
And
where do you find the time to do that?
Jesus, I don't know, but he wrote enough and got enough money out of his writing while he was in college and as a med student, that by the time he finished med school and his internship,
Mm-hmm.
that he decided he chose um, writing over medicine.
Wow. Dang. I'm still a man. I'm gonna have to research that question. How did he find the time to do it?
His autobiography. I mean, it's not entirely an auto. I mean, it's not like a blow by blow history of his life, but it is autobiographical. His book
Yeah.
Travels, very insightful.
Interesting. I am gonna have to look that up.
Super
Um,
smart guy, very talented guy.
but
I
yeah,
mean,
let's
how many
see.
people have to face that kind of a decision? Gosh, should I be a world-renowned cardiac surgeon or write
Oh
books
wow.
and make movies?
So he was going into surgery too, not
God,
just
you know,
general
I don't know.
practice.
I pulled that out of my ass. I don't remember what
Oh,
his
yeah, what is specialty?
yeah.
I'll find that
I
out
know that
too.
he did some interesting things while on his cardiac rotation.
Interesting. Uh,
One of the things he did is he asked patients, "Why did you have a heart attack?" He did an informal survey. Why
oh
did you
wow,
have
really?
Yeah. And you know what? He wrote in his, this really stuck with me. Nobody said because they had blocked arteries.
Mm-hmm.
They all gave very personal reasons, like I worked too hard, you know, I was under a lot of stress. It was all,
Mm-hmm.
every patient that he talked to had a reason, and none of them were medical.
Oh, I'm sure. Dang. But yeah, next entry, August 9, 1969, the Tate murders, which we
Yes,
covered last week.
yes, that was.
Um,
If you haven't, if you weren't part of that show last week, go look it up. It's worth
yes,
watching.
definitely. August 10th, 1977, David Berkowitz arrested and charged with being the son of Sam. We covered him, what, two
2 weeks
weeks ago?
ago, yeah,
Yeah, so look that one up as well. I still say you haven't seen a bullshit artist quite like him.
man, I'll tell
Maybe
you
I'm
what.
wrong. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. Bundy was pretty good at it.
this is true. I don't know. Something
Well,
about him stuck with me.
Bundy was more of he was more of a narcissist.
This is
He
true.
just wanted the spotlight on him. He it was, but Berkowitz was he just make shit up.
Yeah, that's kind of what it seemed like. Yeah,
Yeah,
that he would just make up shit to try to get out of trouble.
yeah,
You know. Whereas with Bundy, you could at least see a purpose to why he
exactly.
would lie. But August 11th, 1950, Ethel Rosenberg arrested and charged with treason.
Whoa.
For those who don't know, she was later hung along with her spouse, Julius. Ethel and
And,
Julius Rosenberg,
and
Russian spies.
Russian spies.
Yep.
Do
August.
I think the current estimate from the one of the intelligence agencies, whether it's the internal or external one, I forget. The current
Hmm.
estimate is something on the order of 100,000 foreign spies operating within the U.S. right now.
Wow. How are they defining spy, though?
I don't know.
Huh. Interesting.
I guess
That kind of.
people who take secrets out and give them to other governments, to their government that they came from.
I mean, if you were to define it by the treason statute, it would be just giving aid and comfort to a
Well,
foreign
that
enemy.
would get into the millions then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be much wider.
And half of
But
Congress.
yeah, no shit. But yeah, that's another question I was researching a bit of before we got into Zodiac. Was the estimated number of active serial killers as well. The guy that I was looking at said he estimated about 20 in any single year, 10 of them caught, 10 of them still active.
I thought the FBI numbers were like 10 times that.
It- this guy, I mean, maybe he's wrong, but I would have to look into it a bit more. But that's what he said. And
Okay.
about 200 dead every year from them.
Hmm.
Maybe he's going at a longer timeline, but um, August 12th, 1927, John Robinson hanged as the first murderer in the Brighton trunk murders.
Oh, those were so creepy.
They were. I still find it hard to believe they were unrelated, too.
How could they be unrelated? That's so
That's
bizarre.
that's what my research said. I mean, I don't know. And for those who don't remember, this was two different women who were murdered, dismembered, and put in trunks and left in Brighton and other areas of England
Well,
around this time.
s- well, at least one of them, what they would do is you could buy a ticket just for luggage, right?
Yep,
On the
yep.
trains. And so they would buy a ticket to another train station somewhere else in England and put this luggage on this train, and then it would just sit in the baggage area until somebody claimed it. And
It's,
they were shipping bodies this way.
it claimed it or discovered the smell.
Yeah, that would be a giveaway, wouldn't it?
It'd be a bit of a problem, I would think. But yeah, I think we should do an episode on that sometime. Um, August 14th, 1984, the Sudanese allow extradition of Carlos the Jackal for murders in France. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but was this the same movie that had Bruce Willis?
He played a character called the Jackal in the movie called The Jackal.
Yeah,
And I think there was an
yeah.
earlier edition of the movie too. Wasn't there one in the 60s or 70s?
Maybe there was. I was trying to remember
All
if
right,
his the
I'm gonna look.
Jackal was a fictional character or if it was based on this, though. For the I know for
Day of
those
the
who don't
Jackal
know.
was the one I was thinking of from the
Okay,
70s. Let's see what it says.
Carlos the
It's
Jackal
about
movie.
an assassin called the Jackal. Plot to kill Charles de Gaulle. So
Oh wow.
that was 1973.
Oh,
Edward
evidently
Fox.
it came from Venezuela. Huh. Yeah, this one says there was a French-German TV series called Carlos, but I guess the Bruce Willis movie is unrelated. It's just a different hitman. But at any rate, yeah, the Sudanese extradited him to France. Um, let's see, August 15, 1995. Moses Sithole kills his 22nd victim. This guy was the most prolific serial killer in South Africa. I can't remember his final tally, but it was
South
big.
Africa, huh?
38 plus is how many he killed. Apprehended in 1995, so that year. Yeah, he was the one who would rape them and then leave them in fields.
Wow.
Rape, strangle
Things
fields.
are kind of squirrely in South Africa right now.
Oh, really? I haven't been following much
Yeah.
news out of there recently. What's been going on?
Um, it's there's a lot of murdering going on of
Oh,
farm owners in the name of reparations.
oh, yeah. Yeah, just like I'm sure there would be in this country too if certain people had their way. Man,
Yeah.
but that is getting down a rabbit hole I do not want to get down there.
No.
Kind of a bizarre
You.
question. Um, yeah, getting into the Zodiac. That was Jack Levin, a criminologist at Northeastern, who had that estimate I was talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, about 20 of them yearly, which equals about 200 deaths. And that is, what's so interesting about Zodiac is not just all the airs he put on, like the famous ciphers, but also the simple fact that he just wasn't caught, you know?
Yeah, that freaks people out. I mean, in the sense that um, uh, you know, people want things wrapped up, right?
Oh,
And and
absolutely.
leaving them, and justifiably, right? You want to know, because people like Zodiac, they scare the shit out of people, and rightfully so. Um, and you don't want this to be just to go away quietly. You want
Right.
to know that the guy has, and most often it's guys. Let's be fair. It's not
Yeah.
not just guys, but most often guys.
Oh,
You want to know
sure.
those guys are caught and punished.
Absolutely. They want justice. They want finality, like you said.
Absolutely.
Also, I guess this idea of him being a master criminal too, but that's another thing that kind of is
Yeah.
weird about this is that he really didn't do all that much. If you look at
No.
Zodiac's scale, the scale to the actual violent deeds, but and what I just kept a tally of with my research was what they consider his canonical killings. So any stuff where there are a lot of questions there, I left it out. Um, and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, there's some question. He claimed some things that he couldn't have done, right?
right, I mean,
For
we know that for a fact
Yeah.
that he did that more than a few times, and that gets into the Zodiac as a publicity hound too, which I think you could argue was actually his main reason for doing it, because it sure as heck wasn't the violence with that because there really wasn't all that much when you look at what he did. His first murder, December 20th, 1968. David Faraday, age 17, Betty Lou Jensen, age 16. Both of them died. What's he do? He shoots them with a 9mm Luger.
I got a map here that I'm gonna pull up because I want people to have concept of the geography.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
this is
it's
this
pretty
is
big.
San Francisco Bay Area, but not San Francisco by quite a ways.
Right. Northern California.
So these two were a couple of young people out in Lover's Lane, right?
Yeah, basically. They were both shot by, like we said, a 9mm Luger. And the reason that we knew that actually early on was his phone call to, of all people, the police. But this wasn't until 6 months later when he shot Michael Mago, 19, and Arlene Farron, 22, on July 4th. Mago got shot 4 times, Farron got shot 9 times.
Jeez.
And what's he do after that? He finds a payphone, calls the Vallejo Police Department, and says, I want to report a double murder. They were both shot with a 9mm Luger. I also killed those kids last year. And one thing that really stood out to the receptionist with that was how he said goodbye, which
And
was
and that
goodbye, like that, literally.
wow. So it
There's an
was
interview with her on YouTube that's pretty interesting.
so that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, yeah, because he's mechanical and he's monotone when he's describing the details of the crime. But then when he gets to that, it's like, something flicks on and he's
Now,
messing with them.
from my understanding, was the second couple shot with a Luger as well?
Yes.
Now, to my understanding, there's nothing special about the ammunition that a Luger shoots. It's just a 9 millimeter round, as far as I know. And
That, as far as I know, that's correct. Yeah.
so it's not like a cop would pick up the casing from this crime scene and go, "Oh, this was a Luger."
No.
If
No, I
he
mean,
if
he
he
wouldn't.
hadn't provided that information in the 911 call, they would have just said 9 millimeter.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they would have. And when you get through this, the first time that he sends the letters to the San Francisco Examiner and the San Francisco Chronicle and
Oh,
the Vallejo Times,
I got that letter. Let me pull it up.
about a month after the second shooting, when he sent those letters, he even went to note the brand of the ammunition that he used in the 9 millimeter.
Yes.
As you can see it right there under one, brand name of ammo Super X. Uh, let's see. Oh, yeah, on the Christmas one, 10 shots were fired. That's one thing that got me about that second scene, was you have the guy only getting shot 4 times, but 9 bullets in the female.
Uh-huh.
That seems like overkill to me. Even if she was trying to escape, which all reconstructions of the scene don't say that. They say, she was basically dead after a couple shots from it.
Hmm.
Even if she were trying to escape, 9 seems like overkill to me,
Well,
especially in
and,
that
and
second scene when the guy lived.
and not especially accurate.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you can kill somebody with one shot if it's well
Oh,
placed.
oh absolutely. Most definitely. And while you throw in the variable of both of these crimes happening at night, the way that he actually improved his accuracy with that was taking a pen light and literally using masking tape around it on the barrel of the gun.
Oh, so
And
he was effectively trying to create what we now have as laser targeting.
essentially, yeah. I guess nobody in the 60s had thought to do that, but
I
it
don't
seemed
think
like a
no.
rather
I'm
novel
I'm guessing
technique.
I'm guessing they hadn't really come to that concept uh, in the sighting technology. We had
Hmm.
scopes and we had lights, but we hadn't really got to the laser stage yet. I don't, as I recall.
Hmm. Yeah, this is true.
Maybe military had it, but I'm thinking maybe not because it would have been too bulky. I don't think the circuitry was small enough in those days.
Well, but that is an interesting part of this as well. After the next scene when he strikes, September 29, 1969, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard both stabbed at a lake, at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. This is where we get the theory of Zodiac being military. And why is that? It's because of the boot print of a size 10.5 wing walker, which is only, sold to the military so they can walk on the wings of planes effectively.
I was going to say that sounds like something you would wear if you were around aircraft
Yep.
or a barnstormer.
This is true.
Wing walkers, for those of you who don't know, the old timey post World War One um, aerobatic um, flyers, people who would literally get out and walk on the wings during a show of a using the old World War I biplanes. Those guys were called wing walkers.
Interesting. I didn't know that part.
Plenty of those guys died putting on a show.
Oh, interesting. King Cobra says in 1975, the Swedish optics company Aimpoint AB marketed the first electronic red dot sight, combining a reflecting curved mirror and a light emitting diode.
And that's a great piece of information, and it proves the point. They were not available when Zodiac started up his career, if we'll call it that.
His career in his jerry rigged version.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. But yeah, at the Lake Berryessa scene, he switched up his MO for the first time, brought out about a 12 inch long hunting knife that he stabbed the couple with. And again, the woman died, the man did not. But one interesting thing that he did leave at that scene, and I'm pretty sure I included a picture of it, was the door of the Carmen Gia that
Oh
had the
yeah.
writing on it.
This is one of those things.
Well, that was also from the scene right there, the drawing of Zodiac wearing an executioner's hood.
Yes.
That is what the couple saw at the scene, and Brian Hartnell later gave that in a description.
No, I'm laughing because we had plenty of discussions about which images are we going to want to see individually.
Uh, yeah, did we put too many of them in there?
No, 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 no. I just didn't do that one.
Yeah, there's the one we'll have to get to next. Paul Stein. There we go. With the writing on the car, you can see the two murders in Vallejo, 12/20/68/74, and then September 27th being at Lake Berryessa in Napa County. And that alone, having those two separate jurisdictions, gets into another problem with this that really stymied law enforcement at the time, and that was coordinating information cross jurisdictionally.
And we've heard this story before
Yes, we have.
several times.
Yep. I
Um,
think that.
Bundy comes to mind. He took advantage of that. He actually was consciously aware of the problems with interdepartmental communications,
Mhm.
interjurisdictional communications, and he consciously took advantage of that. Others did so. Um, Lucas and
Tool.
Toole did as well, just to name two.
This is true. I mean, they definitely did a little bit later on with that. But I think Zodiac might have been the first to really take advantage of it.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Although, there might have been some before him. That was a question I really should have looked into, because one that did come to mind with that was Charles Starkweather on his crime spree. He wasn't a serial killer by definition, but he was a mass murderer who crossed a buttload of jurisdictions.
Was it more like a spree with him?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Starkweather was more of a mass or a spree killer than a serial killer, but yeah, you had that as a big problem there.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he had a gun with him at Lake Berryessa, but for whatever reason, he decided to use his knife on those two.
Yeah, that's you know that am shifting up jurisdictions is confusing to was in those days confusing to the police. But changing up your MO would have also been crossing up those wires.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And it almost makes me wonder if he didn't do it because he knew he was more alone, or
Mm.
he
He
might
didn't
have
have to
known that
hurry.
there was.
He didn't
Yeah,
have to
he didn't
hurry.
have to hurry. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah, because like the first kids who were just in a lover's lane, anybody, people could have happened by at any point, right? But
Yeah,
but the kids by the lake,
I mean it.
they weren't really kids. They were young adults. Um,
College kids.
yeah,
Yeah,
they were more isolated. He could take his time.
exactly. He could see people coming because it was what, maybe evening when he killed him.
Yeah,
I think it said around 6:30 on the car. Whereas at night you're gonna have car lights that you're
right.
gonna see, obviously, but people could pull up rather fast still. But yeah, they had Lake Berryessa, and again, the man lived, the woman did not. But
And
what's
and
really
and the survivor from that attack would come into play later on, right?
he would much later on, actually.
Much later on. Yes.
Um, but jumping ahead to October 11th, 1969. This is when Zodiac goes into the city and kills the cabbie Paul Stein with a gunshot to the head at the corner of Washington and Cherry.
Hmm.
And this is partly where this whole water theory of the crime comes into play too.
I, I I never really saw much of that. So let's explain that theory.
I don't believe in it much either, but um, he killed all the victims somewhere near a body of water, or Washington and Cherry, Washington. You know,
Yeah, that's lame.
yeah, it is. And that's the thing, is you get a lot of that, a lot of those little rabbit holes when you're talking about something like Zodiac.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
is
I
interesting
mean, I
how.
mean, San
Uh,
Francisco is near a body of water.
yeah, that's true too. You could have stretched it out to that even. But yeah, it's interesting in and of itself why he would even bother shooting a cabbie when all the other victims have been lovers at lovers' lanes.
And he left gloves behind, right?
He
He
did.
left some
He
evidence.
he took them off and he left gloves behind after he shoots him in the back of the head.
And he takes
With
his fares, which was like a couple of bucks.
around $8.25 for the night was about it.
Wow.
That's nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, and at any other first blush with this, it's going to look like just any other bit of crime happening in San Francisco at that time. And in fact, they're still not sure how this happened, but the initial description for the person that was seen getting out of Paul Stein's cab was a African American male. That was the description that was sent over the SFPD radio that night.
And was that provided by the witnesses? That description?
I am not sure where that came from, but they did figure it out. Not really quick, but not like dragging their feet slow either. And they corrected it to the guy who's about 5'8", crew cut glasses, stocky. It's the Zodiac that we have in the mugshot, is the description that was mostly from that night. But yeah, I'm not totally sure where that got started that it was a black guy who did it. Whether that was the witnesses at the coroner or whether that was the
All
cops
right.
that supposedly saw him.
Let me get the here. Let's pull this up separately.
But at any rate, a partial there, yeah, there it is. That's the one that started off from that crime scene. Glasses, crew cut, heavy set. Oddly enough, that's also the one that was it Trump who started saying that Ted Cruz was the Zodiac?
God,
Somebody,
no. Was it?
I think it was. It might have been Trump, but whoever it was put Cruz's picture next to that, and it's hilarious. I mean, it's stupid, but it's funny, you know. Um, but yeah, it started that night, and the only bit of evidence that was left around was a latent thumbprint in blood on the cab.
To be fair, though, you could put damn near anybody's picture next to Zodiac and they'd look like him.
Yeah, kind of like I did when I was screwing around at Photoshop at work today. Put yours on there.
Oh God, let's do that.
If you want to pull it up, I think I uploaded it to Facebook. But yeah, and you know, there's it's not even clear that that is the person who was in that cab's thumbprint that was left. You know, and this is a question that the cops were asking themselves at the time. Why would the master criminal in quotes, who hasn't left a print on any of the letters he's been sending out or any of the other crime scenes, why would he suddenly leave one now? Especially when he was wearing gloves, for Christ's sake.
Right. Yeah, it's pretty careless. It's incredibly careless.
But, you know, I don't know. I think it gets back to looking at and evaluating what his main goals were, what the Zodiac's goals were. And I think it's pretty evident if you look at the letters and especially the ciphers that he sent out. His goal was creating terror. It wasn't even so much murder.
Yeah, and it worked, right?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely did. Which,
It,
by the way, the 340 cipher from Zodiac hasn't been solved to this day.
okay,
And pretty much
which one's that?
that's the one that has 340 characters on it. I think it's
Okay.
marked. Um,
Ah,
but the first one that he sent to the papers, which was around the August 4 letter that he sent out, was actually cracked by two high school teachers in Salinas, California. That
all
was
right.
the first one, yeah.
I trying to find the right one here.
Yeah, I'm looking through it on the sites that I have up.
I think it's not this one, but this one.
Yes, that is the one that has not been solved. Every single agency in the United States federal government has taken a crack at it,
Yeah.
and they haven't been able to solve it. I'm pretty sure the DOD looked at it too.
Well, this brings up a point that we were talking about before the show, and that is that unsolved codes. Well, unsolved crimes make people crazy, just to begin with.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
unsolved codes just drive people around the bend trying to solve them.
Hmm.
Um, People get so fucking obsessed with these unsolved codes and unsolved mysteries of all kinds, like Oak Island, like Voynich, like um,
Hmm.
hell, even Nostradamus. People don't like things being unsolved, and there are people out there who obsess over these unsolved problems, crimes, uh, manuscripts, codes. People think I'm gonna be the one to solve this shit.
They do. They get that sort of complex in their head about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I wonder if somebody's put a dollar figure out on the 340 cipher. If you
How do
can
you mean?
convincingly,
You mean
if you can convincingly crack it, we'll give you so much money. Because I mean, yeah, you have a lot of people out there who say, yeah, I've cracked it and blah 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 blah. But if you really needle down their logic with it, it falls apart pretty quick.
what about the first? There was a couple who claimed to have decrypted the first.
Oh no, they did. It's definite that they did.
Okay.
That was the Donald. I think his name was Donald Hardin, and then his wife. Two high school teachers in Salinas, California, cracked that one.
So that was
That's the one you have up there. It
okay.
translates to. I
Okay.
like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest, and so on.
Oh, the most dangerous game reference
Yep,
in that
that
one.
is where that gets in on there. Yeah, and for people who haven't seen that movie, I would recommend giving it a watch.
Or read the book.
Yeah, the book too,
The
from
book
what
is
I hear. I
awesome.
haven't read it.
I haven't actually read it, but my one of my grade school teachers read it to the class. Back in the olden days when teachers actually taught shit, um, it was not uncommon. I had many of my teachers who would spend a little bit of time every day reading an entire book through the school year.
Oh, nice.
And one of my teachers read that one.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
Um, I was just looking up to see where that was shown too. Wednesday, August 21st, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time.
Yeah.
If listeners want to set their DVRs to Turner Classic Movies, they're actually showing The Most Dangerous Game on there.
When's the last time you saw it?
It's been probably about a year.
Oh, okay. Still
Yeah.
holds up pretty good, do you think?
Oh, yeah, it's a good movie. With a lot of really old movies, which getting back into the 30s, that's kind of the association for people. It gets into really old. With a lot of them, people think, oh, it's going to be censored. They're going to be, watching their P's and Q's
Right.
and what have you. But the most dangerous game is actually falls into what's called the pre-code old movies.
Oh,
It was made
before
before the
this,
Hayes production code.
before the self-censoring.
Yep. So it has plenty of, violence in it because of its nature. It's a really well made horror flick. I do recommend checking it out. But yeah, with Paul Stein, the SF cabbie who was murdered, he
Yeah.
was technically the last canonical victim in the Zodiac. Um, this was where you got SFPD Inspector Dave Tosky on the beat on the
Okay.
case for murder. And Tosky, we had a picture of him with his partner, Inspector Armstrong, sitting at a desk, I thought.
Oh, I bet we do. Let's see.
But at any rate, with that, Tosky was actually the main inspiration for Steve McQueen with Bullet in 1968.
Come
Because
on. I'm
he
sorry. I'm
already
I'm talking
had
to
a
myself, trying to find.
he already had a hell of a reputation as a detective. But even down to how Bullet wears his gun in that movie in 1968, McQueen took that from Tosky. There he was just up.
Oh, it'll come back around. There aren't very many cop pictures.
Yeah.
By the way, the original Bullet Mustang is up for auction if you're in the market for a $2 million plus car.
Oh man, I so would if I had the
I'd
cash.
buy it. Jesus, who wouldn't buy that?
That freaking
That
car chase is epic.
it's not just epic. It's like I mean, it was the car chase that changed everything for car chases.
There's Tosky. Yeah, Tosky in the foreground and Armstrong in the background.
Hmm.
Yeah, down to how he wears his gun. McQueen took that from him. But yeah, you're absolutely right with that car chase. I still think it's the best one that's ever been filmed.
Absolutely. For one thing, it was all done practical in camera. There was no such thing as digital effects in those days. Um,
Oh
and
yeah.
and you can't there's something about practical effects that you just cannot um, replicate in a computer.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and you have on top of that Steve McQueen doing a lot of his own driving.
Right. He was a total race car guy. He was a car
Yeah.
guy. He raced Le Mans. Um,
Yep.
he was a
Motorcycles too, if you watch The Great Escape.
motorcycles. He did his own motorcycle stunts for Great Escape. Uh, when he was filming Le Mans, he actually took a Porsche out with one of the actresses from the film and crashed it because he was drunk and it was raining and almost killed them both.
Oh damn. I hadn't heard that. Yeah, King Cobra says I like the car chase in Blues Brothers. I like that one too, especially when they do what they do to the neo Nazis in it. It's hilarious.
Yeah,
It's a great movie too.
everybody learned from Bullet though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It changed the entire concept of a car chase from Keystone Cops to well Bullet.
Yep. It set that standard, man. And McQueen, like I said, got so much of that character from Dave Tosky. I think there was another guy that he took bits and pieces from too. I can't remember his name, but I think he was NYPD in Brooklyn, if I'm
Okay.
remembering correctly. But Tosky was the majority of it. And yes, that does even go down to how much the guy liked animal crackers if you watch Fincher's
Oh
Zodiac.
yeah. What was that all about?
Yeah, he liked him. I mean, he liked him that much where he would have him around.
I
I guess
liked
he
him
could
too, actually.
I guess he could call him his thinking food.
I mean, you think it, you liked him as a kid. Why the hell wouldn't you still like him? Every now and then I'll still buy me a box or two because they're good.
They are good. They
Yeah,
really are.
they are. So why not?
Definitely.
The whole
But you
point of
know,
being a fucking adult is to get the shit you couldn't get as a kid.
exactly. Exactly. Um oh yeah, and then that still does not end Zodiac cinematic associations either. Dirty
No.
Harry in the original movie, he fought a villain called Scorpio, which was
Yes.
actually
Very,
modeled on
very,
Zodiac.
very closely modeled. Except for the fact that Dirty Harry, of course, catches the bad guy.
Yep. But modeled down to the terrorist threat on a school bus, too.
Yes. That,
Zodiac sent that in one of his letters saying he was going to blow up a bus and, quote, pick off the little kiddies as they come bouncing out. This was part of him just creating terror. Honestly, I don't think he would have done it even if he could have.
well,
But again,
and it goes into, um, once Zodiac had the hearts and minds, so to speak, of the cops and the press, he started claiming to murders that he had no possibility of having committed.
yep, exactly.
And he threatened murders that he never carried out.
Yep, that was him indeed. Um, but yeah, it was around that time as well where the famous appearance on the Jim Dunbar TV show happened.
Oh
That was
man,
where
We don't have a Marvin Belli picture.
Melvin Belli. Yeah.
Melvin Belli.
Um, there's some real questions whether that was Zodiac that called in.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. The what happened was this is in the midst of the Zodiac terror spree in San Francisco. Jim Dunbar's show gets a call claiming to be Zodiac, and he says, "I'm going to call back at such and such time. You're going to have famous attorney Melvin Belli on the air to give me counsel."
Okay,
So
so the request, the demand was legit, right?
it may have been, it may not have been. Melvin Belli was very much in the public eye too. He
And
was
and
the
he was
he
one
was the attorney for the Rolling Stones at Altamont, their famous concert
he
there.
was the attorney for a lot of famous cases. He was
Yep.
he was you know the term ambulance chaser for low level attorneys chasing um, personal injury cases.
Oh sure.
Well,
Yeah.
Melvin Belli was a Rolls Royce chaser.
Yeah. Yeah. You could put it that way. This is true. But yeah, at any rate, they were going to do that, and they said, to the viewing audience, please keep the lines clear so whoever this is can call in. They call in and they talk to the guy. The guy says his name is Sam, and that he gets headaches, and when he kills, they go away. Well, the problem with that was
Yeah,
they ended up tracing Sam's call to a mental institution.
right.
So this definitely was not Zodiac who called back.
And Zodiac never used the name Sam.
No, no, it does not at all point to a letter or anything of that nature.
What was the year for that?
That was, I want to say, 1969 still. Maybe
Okay,
1970.
so well before Son of Sam. So he
Oh, yeah.
couldn't have got it from that. So he was probably just telling the truth or one of his many personalities, whoever the guy who was in the mental hospital was.
Yeah. Yep. And in fact, if you do a little bit of research, you can find a clip of that on YouTube of that call into Jim Dunbar's show. So, and King Cobra had an interesting comment above that I wanted to acknowledge and refer to, where
Yeah?
he said perhaps the Elliot Rodger style rage. What he meant there was incel style.
Oh,
Elliot Rodger was essentially the incel godfather for modern incels, if I remember correctly.
and
Please feel free to correct me if
cells.
I'm wrong, King Cobra. But he went on a spree, as it were, in the early 2000s, I thought it was.
Okay.
Um, I would have to check that.
Well, so why why might okay, so if you're going to bring up incels at this point, then
Get into our
we
suspects.
have to get into our suspects. Yep.
2014 Isla Vista massacre was Elliot Rodger. Yes, 7 dead, 3 by stabbing, 4 by gunfire, including the perpetrator. But yeah, the suspects, getting into them. The one that, for my money, is probably the best that you're going to run into out of all of them. And we've talked about some of the ways that people try to poke fun
Yeah?
at this with like Ted Cruz
Oh
being the
yeah.
Zodiac. You have people who are journalists and are self-styled scholars in this try to point the finger at usually a relative, saying like there was one guy who said, "Oh, my dad's the Zodiac," and basically it was just, "Oh, I found his name in the end of the cipher, and plus he kind of looks like the composite."
Okay.
There's not there's not really a whole lot of solid scholarship or info behind any of those. but there's a couple who do have more um, info in their corner, as it were, than the others. And the first one of those is Arthur Lee Allen. He had his driver's license just up.
Yeah.
If we could scroll back to that.
Well, that's not how it works, but let me see what I can do.
That's okay. I'll just keep talking till it comes back around. Um, Arthur Lee Allen was the one who was spotlighted in Fincher's movie about the Zodiac, and I'm trying
Right?
to remember what's that guy's name who plays him?
That
The bald
guy,
guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Excellent actor. I
He's
really like him as
fabulous
an
character
actor.
actor.
John
Most
Carroll Lynch.
most
That's
people
who
will
it
know
is.
him from Fargo, I would say.
Fargo, yes. John Carroll Lynch, who played
Yes.
the husband in Fargo. He also played the killer clown in American Horror Story. That
Um,
was John Carroll Lynch, too, in that season of AHS.
he
But
was,
there he is.
yeah,
Yeah.
he played a really bad guy opposite of um, Halle Berry in. I'm looking for it. Scrolling, scrolling, scrolling.
Halle Berry, huh?
Come
I
on.
don't remember that one.
God, he's done a lot of work. Gothica.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that now. He was the sheriff in that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
This
but
is
Arthur
this
Lee
guy's
Allen.
been busy as fuck.
Yeah.
And
We
which is
actually
good. I
interviewed him
like
at the
him. I like him.
405. We actually interviewed him at the 405. It wasn't me, it was the person who was co editing with me
Oh,
at that
cool.
time. Interviewed him. But yeah, Arthur Lee Allen, born in 1933 in California, um, kind of self styled as a loner, as his friends, the few of them, would say. Um, History of rage and of a lot of anger towards authority. And this also gets into what may have been a precipitating event for him, a triggering event, as it were,
Yeah.
when he was fired from his job at a elementary school for molesting the
Oh,
children there.
yeah. Yeah.
And in fact, what he told his friends about that was that they fired him for carrying a 44 Magnum. But come to
Whoa.
find out later on, it was, that, oh, yeah, they fired you for touching kids.
Molesting.
Um,
He was a pedo.
yes, yes.
So
And
why did
he
he
had,
so why then go shoot couples?
well, and this gets into, you have to understand a few things about this guy's sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
The other big thing that I think likely would have formed it quite a bit was him having crypt orchidism as a kid. And
Which
what that
is
I didn't know what that was till today when I was reading about this. Cryptorchidism usually just occurs in one testicle, but Arthur Lee Allen had it in both testicles. It's where they don't drop.
oh
And
that that
his,
that could be so how old was he when they dropped?
he was about 13, 14. He had it undiagnosed. I'm still trying to figure that out as best I can. How you could go that many years without knowing that. That just seems weird to me, even if you didn't go to a doctor. But um, yeah, you had that in there, and he also told some of these same friends that he was talking to about being fired that the sounds of children screaming while being beaten would turn him on.
Jesus.
Yeah, no kidding. So you have all of that going on. Um, that gets back to again what you were saying with the psychology of Zodiac. Why go around and shoot people if that's the case?
Yeah.
And that's a good question there. But I do know as well. This is more circumstantial evidence, but His favorite book was The Most Dangerous Game.
Oh, right.
The first time that the SF detectives actually talked to him, he was wearing a Zodiac brand watch, too. No kidding.
That seems a little bit careless.
You would think so. But yeah, he was wearing
Yeah,
that at the time.
which, by the way, the logo for the Zodiac watch is what the Zodiac killer, adopted for his own logo.
Right.
The
The one that
circle
looks
with
like a
a,
gun sight.
yeah.
Yeah. Um,
It's that I don't. It does not. To me, it does not at all look like a gun sight. If you've ever seen a gun sight and how those things are marked, it doesn't look anything like a fucking gun sight. It's a
it
circle
doesn't
with
look
a.
like one in
It's
practice.
it's a circle with a
Yeah.
plus in through the middle.
Right. I mean, it doesn't look like one in practice, but it does look like one in theory. I mean, it's theoretically what most people think of when they think of a gun sight is a circle with the cross through it, like that, I think. But
Which is interesting because he never used a long gun.
yeah. Yeah,
So
he never did.
yeah,
He only
it's
used a pistol.
right. It's stupid to think that's a gun sight. I personally, in my personal opinion.
Um, but Robert Graysmith, who is the subject of the 2007 Zodiac, is Jake Gyllenhaal's character in it.
Yeah,
The real cartoonist. He worked as a cartoonist for the SF Chronicle.
right.
He has chronicled a bunch of different sources that place Arthur Lee Allen in the general area of each of these murders when they occurred too.
Oh,
Was
well,
part of that.
through witness accounts or like receipts or
I think a bit of
yeah,
both.
okay.
I would have to check the sources in the bibliography of his book, but yeah, that's another part of what it was. And then you have in
Now, oh,
1991, uh,
didn't he go to jail for a period of time?
Arthur Lee Allen.
Yeah,
Um, Man, he was in jail for something besides the molestation, I thought. I think it was a weapons charge that had him in jail before that. I can't remember what exactly it was, but yeah.
okay.
But yeah, the other thing in 1991 was they showed Arthur Lee Allen's picture to Michael Mageau in a non-sequential lineup, meaning they just basically mixed it in with a bunch of other photos and gave him instructions saying, do any of these men look like the one who shot you the night of that night in 1969?
Yeah.
And he ended up fingering Arthur Lee Allen for it.
Wow. Huh.
So,
Fingering.
well,
That's appropriate.
but yeah, for my money, he's probably one of the better ones with that. And the other connection that was with him, there was one of the early victims. I think it was Donna Farron. Supposedly knew her attacker. If you go by the way that she was acting that night, that
Yeah.
she knew this person who was chasing them in a car and who was pulling up. And Grace Smith, in talking to her sister, who was in prison for something else um, in the 70s with that, said that there was this weird guy who used to come by a lot, who used to bring her presents from Tijuana, was what she said.
Hmm.
But he came by in for a painting party that they were having where people just come by, drink beer, and paint
Right.
a house.
Like a
But he
barn raising, but for city
Yeah,
people.
yeah, exactly. This guy comes by wearing a nice, black suit and just sits in the corner.
To a painting party.
Yeah, yeah. And as she said that the guy who came by went by Lee.
Uh,
So,
which which Arthur Lee Allen did. He preferred his middle name, right?
Yes. Now, the one thing that kind of points away from him, they tested his DNA against some of them on the Zodiac envelopes where they were licked,
Yeah.
and they didn't get a match.
Mm.
But
But
there's two reasons why that might not matter. First of all, there's some scientists who say that that sample is so degraded, you can't really get anything good off of it.
so they didn't
And
say
then,
it was inconclusive. They said it was not a match.
well, no, they said that it was inconclusive with that.
Okay.
And that was the first reason. The second reason why that might not matter is the friend of Arthur Lee Allen, Don Cheney, had said that it was his habit to get somebody else to lick his envelopes for him or his stamps when he was putting them on. So
Well,
it wouldn't be his anyway.
that's very interesting because DNA testing was, you know, a couple of decades away still.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, there's no reason that he should have been afraid of it back then,
Yeah.
unless he's just that hyper paranoid.
Um, if right, yeah. It's a he could have been, if he was a germaphobe, but there's no evidence of that. Um, you used to be able to get these little squeeze bottles with a sponge tip to moisten the glue on
Stamps
envelopes
and
and
yeah,
envelopes. Yeah, could have done that.
that's true.
And then, not everybody licked envelopes. Some people didn't like them. Uh,
Yeah. And
yeah,
for whatever reason, Don Cheney had said that Arthur Lee Allen, that was his habit, was to have somebody else lick his envelopes. Oh, and then the other one with that for whatever reason I didn't write down with my notes.
yeah.
When he was drinking with Arthur Lee Allen on New Year's Eve of 1969, he evidently, Allen is like 3 sheets to the wind. And he's talking to his buddy and he's saying, if I were ever a criminal and doing a crime spree, I would go by Zodiac. And this was before any of the murders occur.
Wow.
So you have that as well.
Yeah. Hey, people, if you're gonna be a killer, don't tell your friends how you're gonna do it and what
Loose
your
lips
what
sink
your code
ships.
name's gonna be.
No shit. But yeah, for my money, he's probably the best one you're gonna find of
All
them.
right. So who are some of the other people that have been put forward as possible Zodiacs?
Now, another one that's been proffered has been the same person who killed the Black Dahlia. I'm still not totally sure how that one works out because it's completely different. Even if you look at how we know Zodiac's MO evolved, it is way, way different from how Elizabeth Short was killed.
Right.
And, to refresh people's memory with that, she was the one who in 1947 in LA was bisected and left at a corner, surgically bisected and left there. Um, some people, for whatever reason, there have said her. Um, another one that's actually been proffered, and I'm not totally sure how this would even link up, but I could see it a little bit more closely because their personalities might line up a little bit more, was actually Ted Kaczynski, the
The
Unabomber.
Unabomber?
Yeah. Again, I
That's
wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in it, but I could see it more than I could see the killer
okay.
of
So
Elizabeth
so where
Short.
was the Unabomber found? In Idaho,
I think
Montana, something like
so.
that?
Something like that.
Way the fuck out into Nowheresville.
Yeah.
Um, that I don't buy that. I don't. It's so different. So
Here
completely different.
is here is an article from the San Francisco Daily Gate that is titled Kaczynski Zodiac Killer Same Guy. If I can copy it, my stupid laptop. We will drop that in the chat. Yep, Mr. Deadman knows who Elliot Rodger was. I would classify Elliot Rodger as a domestic terrorist, just like a lot of them.
You know, there are some serial killers who want to cause terror. Um, Bundy was,
Yep.
for example, was not one of those. Green River Killer was not one of those. BTK was not. But the ones who go to the media and the cops and start, trying to get attention on themselves, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, obviously DC snipers. Um,
Mm-hmm.
some were trying to cause terror, but others just wanted to kill.
Yeah. I think it's unequivocal that Zodiac wanted to cause terror. And that was even in a lot of ways his main preoccupation. And then let's see. If you bring in another possible victim who was Donna Lass, disappeared in 1970 in Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
She's not totally considered canonical with the Zodiac, which is why, as I said at the beginning, I didn't group her in. Um, but some people do. And if you bring her into this, there's a guy named Lawrence Kane who worked in the same Lake Tahoe hotel as Lass. Um,
Okay.
he served in the Naval Reserves, where where he might have learned cryptography coding, and he would have had access to Wingwalker boots. Um, this guy, though, was interesting. He had a brain injury from a
Oh.
1962 car accident. And this injury, in particular, they had said, impaired his ability to control his urges. So it was likely his frontal lobe injured.
Mm-hmm.
He was arrested for being a peeping Tom in 1961 and prowling in 1968. Um,
Hmm.
let's see, that was a retired cop
Well,
investigating all
here's the problem
these.
with that is that Zodiac had pretty good impulse control, I would say.
He absolutely did. Definitely more than a lot of serial killers.
So this brain injured guy doesn't fit that, I would say. That's my claim.
No, I would agree with you there. In fact, I think that possibly the only killer with comparable impulse control to Zodiac was BTK.
Yeah. Yeah, BTK had some long ass cooling off periods, years.
Yep. But then when you factor in what he did to his victims too, he didn't just shoot them. That was, yeah, just wow. Let's see. Oh yeah, and Ross Sullivan is another suspect. This is a guy who was suspected in the 1966 murder of Sherry Joe Bates in Riverside, California. This is another one that is non-canonical, but was actually connected to Zodiac through Paul Avery, who was a
Uh, he,
writer at the San Francisco Chronicle. Robert Downey Jr.'s character in the movie.
right?
He was the one who connected Sherry Joe Bates, who was murdered in Riverside down by L.A.,
D-
Southern
that
California.
didn't really hold up though, did it?
No, no, it didn't. Um,
So what about Kathleen Johns? That's a very strange case up
that
in
really is.
Modesto in
That
1970.
no,
Do,
it absolutely is.
so was that Zodiac or was it not? That's
That might have been one that he just took credit for. And the funny thing was, she didn't even die.
exactly. She somehow escaped from a moving vehicle while pregnant and with a baby.
Yeah, yeah, she gets picked up on a highway, after being followed by a guy in a car who says there's a problem with your rear wheel, let me tighten it up. And come to find out what's he do? He loosens the lug nuts on it,
Right.
and the wheel falls off. And luckily, he's still behind her, so he picks her up. And then as they're driving, he says, I'm going to kill your baby in front of you, and then I'm going to kill you. And somehow she manages to get out of the car and flag down traffic from it. So, was that Zodiac? Was he, like you said, just taking credit there? I don't know.
Yeah.
It would certainly fit with terror being the main thing here, the main object for him, the main goal, drive, or desire being to just inflict terror. Which that would make him a sadist in one sense of the term.
Sure.
Definitely not like your classic serial killer, but even if they never find out for certain who the Zodiac is,
Yeah.
if he's still living, I honestly think you might see him confess to it before he dies. It would be very close to his deathbed, though. He seems to me to be the type who would want the record set straight, if possible.
True. Well, Arthur Lee Allen, though, he
Well,
died. He did die.
Arthur Lee Allen, that's one thing I forgot to say there with him. It was when the cops were going to interview him a second time that he actually died unexpectedly of a heart attack.
Yeah.
But you know what they ended up finding in his living space that second time, right?
What?
Bomb making materials, pictures
What?
of bombs, and Zodiac paraphernalia.
Okay, bomb making materials. That's pretty broad. Um,
Materials that could have been used when he sent the letter about building the bomb to blow up a school bus. Put it that way. That's part of what they found. He was very specific in that letter about how he was going to do it.
right?
And it come to find out, when they look at Arthur Lee Allen's house a second time, he had the stuff needed for it there.
Oh, my only gripe with that terminology is that, you know, anybody who builds shit with their own hands probably has what could be classified as, quote, bomb making materials. Do you have some pipe laying around? Yeah. Do you have some wires? Yeah. You know, do you have an old alarm
Well,
clock? Yeah.
like I said, this was very specific only because of that letter.
I mean, yeah, yeah,
They
no,
knew what they were looking for because of that. It was a bomb that somehow involved, I thought it was fertilizer and cooking oil. That basically it turns this stuff into a landmine when something would drive over it. Was the whole thought process there. Um, but yeah, and yeah, that I could understand having some of the other Zodiac paraphernalia they said he found.
hmm
Even if you're an innocent guy and all that, you figure, well, hey, I might as well educate myself a little bit on this guy that they say I am, right? You know,
yeah.
so I could understand that,
I
but
yeah, it's to me it's the it can be problematic when the police have, an image in their mind and then you go and find evidence to support that. Well, a lot of innocent stuff could look guilty when you have that mindset.
oh sure, myopia,
Yeah,
myopia, the
tunnel vision.
detective's
Yeah,
paradox, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Although I think it was more than that when you're talking about Arthur Lee Allen, though.
Oh, yeah. I don't disagree with that part. Yeah,
Hmm.
there was plenty of stuff going on with him. for
No, I
sure.
don't think there was a movie with John Cusack about Zodiac. You mean Jake Gyllenhaal,
Yeah,
Kelly?
yeah.
John Cusack would have been a horrible Zodiac, sorry. Unless you're trying to implicate him somehow.
Or doing a comedy version.
He got the Zodiac. He named himself Zodiac in his letters, basically.
In his first letter to the editors, he named himself Zodiac.
Yep. There's more of the funny shit. Beta O'Rourke on the victims list. Yep. Yeah, it's probably one of those things that'll never be solved. I mean, the Golden State Killer case gives you a little bit of hope that maybe they could use the developing terminologies, or the procedures they developed there maybe could be used this way too. I'm not sure. As far as I know, Kelly, the only other connection with the Zodiac was the Zodiac alphabet from the Middle Ages that he would sometimes use in his coding.
Yeah,
The symbols, that
he
is.
pulled symbols from many different sources, including naval semaphores. Um,
Yep.
that as we did mention earlier that the zodiac symbol and name came from a watch maker.
Yes, that too. Those things coupled together had that.
Um, what do you think? So some those the math teachers solved his first cipher pretty damn quick. I mean, like within days, right?
About 3 days. Well,
Yeah.
if no, actually about two if you count their mail in there.
So, but then there's the ciphers that have not been solved at all. Um, see, if that was me, I totally would have just, written a normal message that I would have, and then fucked with the symbologies just to throw them off. Just scramble some shit up just to make it unsolvable.
Um,
I mean, but because I think he wanted the attention of having it unsolved. I,
could be. I don't
I
know.
mean, to me, there's this dynamic tension in people like this where they want the police and the newspapers chasing him, but they don't want the chase to end.
Yeah. I mean, they like that feeling. They like that
Right.
high from it.
And so they don't want to make it easy to be solved.
Well, that goes back to where he may have more clearly demonstrated that type of behavior. Now, I'm of course with that thinking of when he killed Paul Stein, the cabbie.
Right.
You're going to vary it up radically with
Right.
what happened and see if they could catch me. It's almost like he did it to challenge himself.
So Kelly asked if he stopped because he was arrested on other charges. So there was a several year gap in Zodiac activity that actually directly coincides with Arthur Lee Allen being in jail.
Yes. Yep. There
And,
is with.
and those were weapons charges, did you say?
I thought it was a weapons charge. I'd have to look again. Some sort of weapons charge. I didn't think he was ever incarcerated on the kids, on the molestation.
I don't see anything in this. 2 year. served 2 years for committing lewd sex acts on a 12-year-old boy in 1974.
Yeah, that would have been one of them, but I thought there was a
I
separate
thought there was
one
a
too.
longer one.
Yeah. Let's see. There's Don Cheney. Let's see. Oh, and I failed to mention he enlisted in the Navy as well. Arthur Lee Allen,
Hmm.
the Wing Walkers.
By the way, which could have been purchased at any Army surplus store in the country.
Yep.
So,
Size 10.5.
I mean, it's an interesting correlation, but it doesn't really by itself prove anything. Simply
Um,
because the Army Navy surplus stores were doing big business in the 70s.
well, and another problem with this whole case was their over reliance on analyzing that handwriting too.
Right, which is at best inexact.
Yeah. At best, it's inexact, and at worst, it's not a science at all. It's an art
Right.
because you're literally looking at two different pictures. But yeah, that was another problem when you get into that. They put so much reliance on that, and then Arthur Lee Allen turns out to
To
be
be
ambidextrous.
ambidextrous. Yeah.
He could write. He was dominant with his left hand, but he could still write pretty well with his right hand.
And
Um,
and the claim by the handwriting experts that you can't alter up your handwriting is, it's bullshit on the face.
yep.
You can deliberately write differently. Absolutely can.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, I wish they hadn't put so much emphasis on that from the beginning.
Hmm.
I mean, granted, they didn't have a whole lot to work with, but they could have instead looked at like the content of the letter. And even with the telephone calls that he made, they could have done a linguistic analysis,
Right.
looking at what
Absolutely.
you can tell of his voice.
Yeah. Get somebody, some Henry Higgins type in there to say, oh, this guy grew up, here and here and here, and he's got these influences. Oh, his parents were from Saskatchewan or whatever the fuck, right?
Oh,
You can
yes.
hear those tiny, subtle, um, interesting bits in the spoken language.
Well, and they actually, this is on the special features for the Zodiac DVD.
Yeah.
And it's also on YouTube. They talked to a linguistic analyst about it.
Oh.
And they said that Arthur Lee Allen would fit it,
Oh, cool.
considering, the California cadence and all that. But, they also talked to like geographic profiling was another thing that they were doing with that. Um, and, just bringing to bear all these other sciences that are only now being refined.
Right.
And a big part of that is because they just didn't have the statistical info to do that in, the 60s. They didn't have that on criminals until, the 70s getting into the 80s.
Yeah, getting on a computer in the 70s was expensive.
Yeah, exactly. But and it's one of those things that'll probably never be solved.
Probably not. Probably not. But
But
in so the cartoonist guy, what was it?
Graysmith.
Graysmith, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the interesting notes at the end of the movie was that once Alan died, he stopped getting these uh,
Threatening phone calls.
threatening phone calls. Yeah.
Although with the threatening, it was just somebody breathing on the other end of the line.
Yeah, that's creepy as shit, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, for my money, it's Arthur Lee Allen, but I could be wrong. That whole entire thing could be wrong. It could be Ted Cruz's dad who also killed JFK.
Yeah, yeah. People do, as we mentioned earlier, people do not like these unsolved cases. They
No,
do
it
not
gives
like
them
these
license to go
unsolved.
nuts.
They do not like these unsolved puzzles, and so they will grasp at any fucking straw to
Yep,
try and resolve that. Um, Graysmith wrote. Did Graysmith write the book on Zodiac? Did he ever publish that?
he did. He actually wrote 2 books on him.
Okay.
Zodiac and then Zodiac Unmasked. 2 of them.
Wow.
Yep.
Obsession, man.
That's really what it is, especially with that cipher. I mean, I would find it very hard to believe that somebody could outwit some of the supercomputers and experts that, like, the CIA or DoD has, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe managed to do it.
I it seems like that would be part of a crypto cryptography cracking course. Solve the Zodiac puzzle.
Oh, yeah. One would think so, but I don't know. I've never taken one of those either, so never taken a course in cryptography.
I have not either. Although I did start rereading Cryptonomicon by Neil Stephenson. I haven't read it in a long time. Um,
Oh, wow.
and it's fascinating how the tech does not age well.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, one of them had already been solved, Kelly. It was one that was cracked by 2 high school teachers.
The first one.
Yep. Yep, they solved it in a matter of a couple days and sent it back to the paper. Wait, when did you start? 9:30, right?
We've been going for an hour and a half, Kelly.
Yep. 1 hour 32 minutes.
Alrighty. But I think that kind of wraps it up for us.
I think we've kicked the shit out of Mr. Zodiac.
Next week. Yes, next week we're doing
Weird
dubious defense
defenses.
claims.
Yep.
The devil made
Stop
me
by
do
for
it.
that.
I bet that's
Twinkies,
in there
man.
somewhere.
Twinkies. I ate too many Twinkies. Killed somebody from hyperglycemia.
Yeah, it happens all the time. The neighbor's dog told me.
Well, yeah, you could, in all reality, group Berkowitz in there. The
Exactly.
neighbor's dog, yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yep, those, and
Okay.
we'll have a guest for that show, won't we?
I believe we will have a guest next week.
Perfect.
Yes, looking forward to that. Somebody we haven't had on for quite some time now. It's time to redo that.
I don't think we have ever had her on this show. Maybe on Dead Man's Tome, but not on
Oh,
this one. Not on Real Monsters.
right. Right. I was getting ahead of myself.
Oh, that's all right.
All
Quite all
right.
right.
Thank you everybody. Click like, share the fucking video,
Subscribe too if you get a
subscribe if
chance.
you haven't subscribed. Let's we got a lot of views by the way off of last week's
Charlie
Manson
Manson.
Manson show. We got a lot of views,
I still can't
relative for
believe I
us.
only referred to my notes twice throughout that.
Yeah, you know what? He sticks in the head pretty
He
well.
does. He really does. But
Alrighty.
have a good one, all. Have a
Good
good
night,
night.
everybody.